The victory over the Varnak fleet had brought a fragile peace to Zyphora, yet the planet remained on high alert. The invasion had revealed weaknesses, lessons that could not be ignored. Queen Lyria walked through the palace halls, her mind focused, but also on the human who had changed everything. Ethan had proven more than just skill. He had revealed that courage, intelligence, and determination could alter the course of even the most dangerous battle. The palace gardens were quiet, the soft glow of luminous plants lighting the paths. Ethan was there, observing the city's reconstruction and offering guidance on defense strategies. Despite the chaos of the past days, he moved with calm assurance, planning with precision while remaining approachable to the Zyphoran engineers and pilots around him. Lyria approached him, her robes brushing softly against the ground. She paused beside him, watching the human interact with Zyphoran soldiers. His natural confidence and genuine concern for their safety had earned their trust quickly. She marveled at how effortlessly he bridged the gap between two species. "You have done more than anyone could have expected," Lyria said, her voice quiet but sincere. "Not just in battle, but in teaching my people that humans are capable of far more than we believed." Ethan glanced at her, humility in his expression. "I only acted with what I knew. Courage, patience, and thoughtfulness are not limited to any species. Your people have remarkable abilities. I only helped guide them to use them differently." Lyria nodded, thinking of the battles, the strategies, and the courage she had witnessed. There was no denying it. Humans had potential that Zyphora had never truly understood. And Ethan in particular had shown that strength could take many forms: physical, mental, and moral. In the council chamber later that day, Lyria summoned all her advisors and commanders. She stood at the head of the table, her gaze sweeping across the room. "Zyphora has survived this threat," she began, "thanks to the bravery and ingenuity of all our warriors. And one human." Whispers ran through the chamber. It was unusual for a human to be recognized so openly, let alone praised in a formal council session. Lyria continued, "Ethan has shown us that strength is not limited to size or species. True power comes from courage, intelligence, and the willingness to act when necessary. From this day forward, humans are not outsiders here. They are allies, and they will be treated with respect and trust." The chamber erupted in applause. Zyphoran warriors and commanders who had once doubted humans now looked at Ethan with admiration. Their skepticism had been replaced with respect, a respect earned through actions that transcended prejudice. Ethan bowed slightly, a small smile on his face. "I am honored, Your Majesty. I only hope that my actions help pave the way for understanding and cooperation between our peoples." Over the following weeks, the reconstruction of Zyphora became a symbol of unity. Humans and Zyphorans worked side by side, blending their skills and knowledge to strengthen the planet's defenses. Ethan's strategies were implemented, showing how flexibility, observation, and clever thinking could complement raw power. Every improvement, every adjustment was a testament to collaboration. Lyria watched him often, sometimes quietly, sometimes openly. She was drawn not only to his abilities but to his character, the calm determination, the respect for life, and the unwavering courage that had saved her planet. For the first time, she allowed herself to think beyond duty, beyond protocol, to consider the bond that had formed between them. One evening, under the twin moons of Zyphora, Lyria approached Ethan as he reviewed new defense plans in the gardens. The soft glow of the moons reflected in his eyes, which were focused but serene. "You have changed more than our defenses," Lyria said quietly. "You have changed how I see the universe and my people. I underestimated humans for too long." Ethan looked up, meeting her gaze. "And yet, Your Majesty, here I am. I am grateful for the trust you have shown me, for the chance to prove myself." Lyria's expression softened. "It is more than proof. You have shown me that courage, intelligence, and determination can come in any form. And you have reminded me that leadership is not always about power alone. It is about heart, mind, and spirit." They walked through the gardens together, the night alive with the soft hum of energy flowing through the luminous plants. It was quiet, peaceful, yet charged with the sense of possibility. Lyria felt a rare warmth, a connection forged through respect and admiration. She had been stunned by his strength, but now she realized that what had impressed her most was his unwavering spirit and ingenuity. In the weeks that followed, Sephora experienced its first true integration of humans into its society. Human engineers helped redesign energy shields. Pilots trained alongside Zypheran warriors, and advisors learned to incorporate human perspective into strategy. The planet had survived because one human had shown courage and intelligence, and now many humans contributed to its ongoing strength. Ethan continued to impress, not through display but through consistent action. He adapted quickly, understood Zypheran culture, and guided them with wisdom. Even minor improvements he suggested often saved time, resources, or lives. Lyria observed quietly, understanding that his true strength was not only in battle but in character, thought, and leadership. One day, during a ceremony honoring the defenders of Zyphora, Lyria publicly acknowledged Ethan. She stood on the dais, her commanding presence drawing the attention of all in attendance. "Today, we celebrate our survival, our resilience, and our strength," she said. "But we also celebrate the courage, ingenuity, and heart of one human who has proven that bravery and intelligence are not limited to size or species. Ethan has shown us that the smallest spark can ignite the greatest change. His actions have inspired not just humans and Zypherans alike, but the entire planet." The crowd erupted in applause. Warriors, engineers, and civilians cheered, some clapping for hours. Ethan stood humbly, acknowledging the recognition with a nod, yet never letting pride overshadow humility. He had acted for Zyphora, not for glory. Later, as the city settled into calm night, Lyria and Ethan walked side by side along the palace balcony. The stars above shimmered like diamonds reflecting in the crystal towers below. She looked at him, admiration and something deeper in her gaze. "You have changed my world," she said softly, "not just in battle but in thought, perspective, and understanding. You have shown me that strength can take many forms and that trust and respect can bridge worlds." Ethan smiled gently. "Your Majesty, it is you who allowed me the opportunity. You trusted, you observed, and you acted. Strength is shared, not given alone. Together, humans and Zypherans can face any challenge." Lyria nodded, feeling a quiet certainty in her heart. The bond they had formed went beyond admiration. It was mutual respect, trust, and understanding, qualities that could guide them through any storm. Humans were no longer outsiders, and Ethan's example had opened the door to a future filled with unity, cooperation, and endless possibility. As the twin moons shone over Zyphora, Lyria allowed herself a rare thought. Perhaps this human had not only changed her perception of strength, but had also changed her heart. She had been stunned by his true abilities, but now she was inspired by his spirit. The planet was safe, its people united, and the future uncertain, yet full of promise. Humans and Zypherans, once distant and divided, were now partners, ready to face the galaxy together. And at the center of that union stood a human who had revealed the extraordinary potential of his species, and the alien queen who had finally understood it. In the quiet of the night, with the stars shining above, Lyria reflected on the lesson Ethan had shown her. Strength is not measured by size, species, or raw power alone, but by courage, ingenuity, and the heart to act when it matters most. And for the first time in centuries, Queen Lyria felt hope not just for Zyphora, but for the universe that lay ahead, full of challenges, possibilities, and allies who could rise to meet them. The skies over Zyphora darkened as the main fleet of the Varnak coalition approached. Their ships, larger and more advanced than any previously encountered, cut through space like shadows of destruction. This was no simple raid, it was a full-scale invasion. Explosions and energy blasts lit the void as the enemy pressed forward, aiming straight for the planet's surface. Inside the palace, Queen Lyria moved with precise urgency. She directed the defenses, deploying energy shields, mobilizing her warriors and coordinating attacks with calm authority. Yet even she could feel the weight of the moment. The sheer size and firepower of the enemy fleet made conventional defense strategies risky. Every miscalculation could cost countless lives. Ethan stood beside her, calm but alert. He had anticipated this moment, though not its full scale. His mind raced, calculating patterns, predicting enemy moves, and searching for weaknesses. He studied the formation of the Varnak ships, their energy signatures, and the gaps in their defensive maneuvers. He could feel the pressure, yet he remained composed. Humans had learned to thrive in impossible situations, and this was no exception. "Their main fleet is splitting," Ethan observed, pointing to the holographic display. "They intend to overwhelm us on two fronts simultaneously. If we do not act immediately, the planet's core defenses could be breached. A Xipheran commander frowned. We cannot divide our forces. We risk exposing our own flank. Ethan shook his head slightly. It is the only way, but we can control it. Trust me. Lyria looked at him, sensing the quiet confidence that had become familiar in recent days. She nodded. Very well. Lead the operation. Show us what you have planned. Without hesitation, Ethan coordinated the response. Smaller human-led squads executed precision strikes, drawing enemy attention away from critical targets. Xipheran warriors, inspired by Ethan's calm leadership, followed his orders with perfect synchronization. Explosions and energy beams lit the skies as ships darted through enemy fire, creating a spectacle of controlled chaos. But the Varnak were cunning. They had anticipated misdirection and adapted quickly. A squadron of heavily armed ships broke through Xiphora's defenses and advanced directly toward the planet's energy core, the heart of its defense system. They are moving faster than expected, Lyria said, tension in her voice. If they reach the core, we could lose everything. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He could see the openings, the small moments when he could act decisively. I can stop them, he said quietly. But it will require direct action. Lyria raised an eyebrow. You mean? I will go to them, Ethan said simply. I can neutralize their ships, but it will be dangerous. I need to move fast, and I need full control of a strike unit. For a moment, silence fell. Xipheran warriors were trained for combat, skilled in strength and energy weapons, yet here was a human, offering to face an overwhelming threat head-on. Many muttered that it was reckless, even suicidal, but Lyria, having seen Ethan's capabilities in battle and his clear mind under pressure, knew there was a difference between recklessness and calculated action. Do it, she commanded. You have my authority. Ethan boarded a small but highly advanced craft designed for speed and precision. He adjusted the controls quickly, his movements confident and fluid. The engines roared as the ship surged forward, diving into the enemy formation. Energy blasts cut past him, shields flared, and explosions erupted around him. Yet he moved with unmatched precision, dodging, weaving, and countering attacks with rapid calculations and flawless timing. He struck the first enemy ship, targeting its weak points with precise energy pulses. The vessel shuddered, then collapsed under the controlled impact, disabling its systems without destroying the surrounding area. Ethan's eyes never wavered. His focus was absolute. One by one, he engaged multiple enemy ships, moving faster than Xipheran sensors could track. His mind anticipated every move, every blast, every evasive maneuver the Varnak tried. He combined strategy and agility in ways that no alien had expected, turning a battle of brute force into a display of pure ingenuity and skill. Back on the command tower, Lyria watched with widening eyes. She had trained countless warriors, faced countless enemies, yet what she saw now defied expectation. This human, small in stature compared to Xiphoran soldiers, was moving through the enemy fleet with a precision and strength that seemed almost impossible. His power was not just physical. It was intelligence applied instantly, courage unyielding, and an instinct for survival that surpassed even her most skilled warriors. The enemy faltered. Their formation broke under the coordinated attacks, their movements becoming chaotic. Ethan's interventions turned what seemed like an unstoppable invasion into a controlled retreat. Every ship he disabled, every attack he anticipated, was a testament not just to skill, but to the true strength of a human who refused to be limited by size, species, or expectation. As the battle reached its climax, Ethan faced the largest enemy ship, a war vessel equipped with weapons that could devastate an entire city. Its energy shields were strong, but Ethan noticed a pattern in the pulse of its weapons. Using precise timing and rapid maneuvers, he targeted critical nodes in the ship's structure, striking with concentrated energy bursts. The vessel shuddered violently, systems failing one by one until it drifted powerless, a testament to human ingenuity and courage. When the enemy fleet finally retreated, broken and demoralized, Xiphora remained intact. The skies were quiet, save for the fading hum of distant energy shields and the cheers of warriors who had witnessed something extraordinary. Xipheran commanders approached Ethan, their faces a mixture of awe and disbelief. You did what? One asked, voice trembling. We have never seen such skill, such precision, such strength. Ethan shrugged lightly, stepping from his craft with calm confidence. I only did what was necessary. The fleet was strong, yes, but predictable. Every force has weaknesses. You only need to find them and act decisively. Lyria, who had been observing silently, now approached him. Her eyes were wide, reflecting a mixture of astonishment and admiration. I underestimated humans, she admitted softly, almost to herself. I underestimated you. Ethan looked at her respectfully. Your Majesty, I only acted with what I have learned. Strength is more than power. It is courage, clarity, and the willingness to act when needed. For the first time, Lyria felt a deep, almost personal awe. She had faced countless adversaries, yet none had revealed such an unexpected combination of bravery, skill, and intellect. The human before her had not only saved her planet, but had done so in a way that challenged every assumption she had held about his species. The palace erupted in celebration. Cypherans praised Ethan openly, a rare honor for a human. He had not only proven his value, but had also shifted the perception of humans permanently. They were no longer merely fragile outsiders, they were capable, adaptable, and resilient. Later that evening, Lyria stood on her balcony, overlooking the calm, recovering cities. The battle was over, yet her thoughts were far from settled. She had watched Ethan face danger head-on, revealing a strength that transcended physical limits. He had shown courage, ingenuity, and an unbreakable spirit. She realized something profound. True strength was not always visible. It was not measured by size, muscle, or weapons alone. True strength was the combination of mind, heart, and will, qualities that Ethan had demonstrated in abundance. As the stars shimmered over Zephora, Lyria approached him quietly. He had been observing the recovery efforts, offering guidance, helping coordinate the rebuilding of defense systems. You have changed everything, she said softly, her voice carrying awe. Not just the battle, but how I see your people. You have shown strength I never expected. Ethan smiled faintly, humble but confident. I only hope this is the beginning, Your Majesty. There are still threats ahead, challenges we cannot yet predict. But humans, we do not give up easily. Lyria nodded, feeling a rare warmth in her chest. The bond between them had grown, forged in the fires of battle and tempered by mutual respect. She had been stunned, yes, but also deeply impressed. The human beside her was not just a capable ally, he was extraordinary. That night, as Zephora settled into quiet peace, Lyria allowed herself to reflect. She had once believed that humans were fragile, limited, and unworthy of command or trust. Ethan had shattered that belief. His true strength was not in his size or species. It was in his courage, his mind, and his spirit. For the first time in centuries, the alien queen felt that the future of her planet might not rely solely on her power or the might of her warriors. It might also rely on humans, and on this one remarkable human who had shown her the extraordinary potential of a species she had once dismissed. The galaxy had changed. Zephora had survived, and Queen Lyria, stunned and deeply impressed, knew that she had witnessed something truly unforgettable. The skies above Zephora were alive with streaks of light as enemy ships approached the planet. The Varnak coalition had returned, this time in greater numbers, their vessels dark and angular, cutting through space like predators. Alarms echoed across the cities, and the once calm palace was thrown into controlled chaos. Queen Lyria stood at the top of her command tower, her eyes scanning the approaching fleet. Her hands rested lightly on the crystalline railing, steady and precise. Around her, advisors shouted calculations and instructions, each trying to anticipate the enemy's next move. Yet even with all the information, the sheer size of the Varnak fleet was intimidating. Beside her, Ethan observed quietly, his mind analyzing every movement, every signal, every minor pattern the Varnak ships displayed. Unlike the aliens, he did not see raw strength as the only path to victory. He saw opportunity, gaps, weaknesses, and the potential to use creativity as a weapon. Their front ships are maintaining a predictable formation, Ethan said, pointing to a holographic map projected in front of them. If we force them to split their attention, we can create openings for our smaller vessels to strike. But we need a distraction, something unexpected. A Zypheran commander frowned. And you propose what, human? That we gamble with our fleet on a plan untested in centuries? Ethan met her gaze calmly. Not a gamble. A calculated move. Trust me, Your Majesty. We can do this without unnecessary loss. Lyria studied him for a long moment. His calmness in the face of overwhelming odds was unusual. Humans were generally fragile, reactive, and unpredictable, yet here was one whose mind worked with the precision of Zifferan strategists, yet with a creativity they lacked. She nodded. "Very well. You lead the operation. Show us your plan." The council erupted in murmurs, some shocked, some intrigued. Ethan calmly outlined his strategy. Small squads of human and Zifferan pilots would execute diversionary attacks, drawing the enemy's focus to one sector of space. Meanwhile, a second wave, guided by Ethan's calculations, would strike at the weaker points in the enemy fleet. Timing and coordination were crucial. Any mistake could be disastrous, but Ethan's plan left no room for chaos, only for precision and adaptation. As the fleets mobilized, Ethan took command of one of the human squadrons. The ships were smaller than Zifferan vessels, faster and more maneuverable. He briefed his pilots with clarity and focus. "We rely on movement and surprise. Watch each other's backs. Communicate constantly. The enemy expects strength, but they do not expect ingenuity." The first phase began. Diversionary ships surged toward the front lines, drawing the attention of the enemy's main fleet. Explosions lit the void of space, energy beams slicing across the darkness. Zifferan commanders watched nervously as smaller human ships darted in and out, performing maneuvers that defied their traditional combat strategies. Ethan's squad moved with remarkable synchronicity. He anticipated enemy fire, adjusted trajectories, and coordinated attacks that caused confusion among the Varnak ranks. What the aliens considered brute power, he turned into a strategic weakness, exploiting every predictable move with cunning precision. On the command tower, Lyria's eyes widened in astonishment. She had expected cleverness from the humans in theory, but witnessing it firsthand was unlike anything she had imagined. Ethan's actions were more than just intelligence. They were instinct, adaptation, and unyielding resolve. The alien pilots, many of whom had been skeptical of humans, now followed his lead without hesitation. Midway through the operation, Ethan noticed an unexpected shift in the enemy formation. A group of Varnak ships had broken away, moving towards Ziphora's energy core. If they succeeded, the planet's defenses would be crippled. "We have a problem," Ethan said calmly, tapping the control panel. "They're attempting a direct strike on the core. If we don't act now, they will penetrate our defenses." Lyria's brow furrowed. "Do you have a plan?" Ethan's eyes narrowed, scanning the display. "Yes, but it requires splitting our forces. It is risky yet precise. Trust me." He immediately coordinated a counterstrike, directing smaller ships to intercept the intruders while using his squad to create temporary energy shields along the vulnerable points. Every maneuver relied on split-second timing, intuition, and an understanding of both Zifferan and human capabilities. The interception was tense. Laser blasts streaked through space, shields flared, and explosions rocked the void. Ethan's commands were calm and precise, guiding both human and alien pilots to positions that seemed impossible. Yet every instruction worked, every move accounted for. Within moments, the Varnak ships were trapped in a crossfire, their formation collapsing under the unexpected human ingenuity. Back on the command tower, Lyria felt a surge of pride and awe. She had watched countless battles, faced invaders from distant galaxies, and devised strategies that often worked flawlessly. Yet Ethan's mind, his ability to anticipate, adapt, and innovate under pressure, was something entirely new. She realized that strength was not only measured in physical power or energy weapons, but also in courage, creativity, and the capacity to see opportunities others missed. After the battle, the surviving Varnak ships retreated, their fleet scattered and demoralized. Ziphora had been saved not by sheer power alone, but by a combination of human ingenuity and Ziphoran skill. Pilots cheered, some crying out in disbelief at the effectiveness of Ethan's tactics. Even the skeptics among the council could not hide their admiration. Later, in the palace gardens, Lyria approached Ethan. The air was calm, carrying the soft fragrance of luminous flowers. He was sitting on a low wall, examining data from the battle on a handheld device, his posture relaxed but attentive. "You have exceeded expectations," Lyria said, her voice quiet but full of meaning. "Not only did you anticipate the enemy's moves, but you guided our forces with a precision I have rarely seen. Ziphora owes you a great debt." Ethan looked up, eyes steady. "I am glad I could help, Your Majesty. Your people are strong and skilled. I only provided direction, nothing more." Lyria shook her head slightly, a small smile appearing. Direction? What you did was more than that. You combined observation, strategy, and action. You are remarkable. Ethan's expression remained modest. I only do what humans have learned over centuries. Adapt, survive, and think differently when strength alone is not enough. For a moment, Lyria studied him in silence. She realized that her admiration was not just for his actions in battle. It was for the mind behind those actions, the courage to act under pressure, and the determination to face impossible odds without fear. Humans, she had thought, were fragile and weak. Ethan had proven otherwise. The night grew deep, the sky above Zephora filled with stars reflecting in the oceans below. Lyria and Ethan walked through the palace gardens, the soft glow of the plants lighting their path. For the first time in her long reign, Lyria felt a sense of genuine curiosity and excitement about the unknown. The galaxy is full of threats we cannot predict, she said quietly. And yet, with someone like you by our side, perhaps Zephora has a chance to face them differently. Ethan nodded. Humans may be small, but we can surprise even the strongest adversaries. Sometimes the smallest spark can ignite the greatest change. Lyria's gaze softened. The queen who had once seen humans as minor players now recognized their potential. Not just potential for survival, but for leadership, innovation, and courage in ways she had never imagined. As they continued through the garden, the city around them quiet after the chaos of the day, Lyria felt a shift within herself. The arrival of this human, Ethan, had changed more than the perception of strength. It had changed her understanding of potential, determination, and the value of seeing beyond appearances. Somewhere deep inside, she knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy held more dangers, more challenges, and more tests of courage than Zephora had faced in centuries. And if she were honest, she realized she was no longer certain who or what would emerge as the key to facing them. For now, she allowed herself to admire the human who had turned the tide of battle not with raw strength, but with clarity, intelligence, and ingenuity. The seeds of trust, respect, and admiration had grown into something stronger. And as the stars twinkled above Zephora, Lyria could not help but wonder just how far a human could go, and what that might mean for her planet, her people, and even for her heart. The morning sun bathed Zephora in a soft violet glow, its rays glinting off the crystal towers that floated above the oceans. The palace was alive with activity, yet Queen Lyria moved through it with calm precision. She had spent countless years mastering the art of control, ensuring that every corner of her world operated smoothly. But since the arrival of Ethan, the human ambassador, her mind felt something unfamiliar, curiosity tinged with caution. Ethan, for his part, continued to navigate Zephora with remarkable ease. He had spent the last few days learning the palace layout, observing the Zephyran warriors and quietly noting their strengths and weaknesses. Though he often appeared calm, his mind never rested. He studied the patterns of the guards, the flow of energy through the city's defense systems, and even the way the queen herself moved and commanded attention. On this day, the palace council gathered again, convening in the chamber where humans and aliens could meet in dialogue. Lyria sat at the head of the long crystalline table, her posture regal, eyes scanning the faces of her advisors. Ethan took his usual place beside the table, noticeably smaller than the tall Zephyrans around him, yet his presence seemed to draw attention nonetheless. The topic of discussion was the ongoing threat from the Varnak coalition, the hostile alien force that had already begun making aggressive moves toward nearby systems. Zephyran intelligence indicated that the enemy's scouts were becoming bolder, probing the defenses of the planet. Lyria had already crafted several strategic plans, relying on the raw power and precision of her warriors. But she listened carefully as Ethan began to speak. "The scouts are testing your defenses, yes," he said, voice steady and thoughtful. "But the larger threat is that they will expect you to fight as you always have. They rely on your predictability." A senior advisor, a tall Zephyran with silver-hued skin, scoffed. "And you suggest we act against our own instincts? We have defended Zephora for centuries with proven methods." Ethan nodded respectfully. "I am not dismissing your experience. I am suggesting we add another layer, something unpredictable. Humans think differently. We adapt in ways that might surprise the enemy." The council murmured in disapproval. Some muttered that a human could not possibly understand Zephyran combat or strategy. Others were intrigued, whispering to each other about Ethan's confidence. Lyria observed in silence, noting the subtle shifts in the room. She herself felt a small spark of interest. Perhaps the human did have insight she could not yet see. After the council, Ethan was invited to the palace arena, where Zypheran warriors trained in combat using energy blades, kinetic shields, and acrobatic maneuvers. The arena was immense, designed to push the physical and mental limits of the fighters. Today, the humans would participate in a joint training exercise with the Zephorans, a chance to observe Ethan's physical abilities firsthand. The warriors regarded him with amusement. "A human thinks he can train with us?" one said, smirking. "He will tire before the first exercise is complete." Ethan simply nodded, stretching his muscles and focusing his mind. The exercises began, starting with agility drills. Zypherans moved with speed and precision, leaping and spinning with grace. Ethan matched them step for step, anticipating moves with keen attention. Where one Zephyran relied on raw strength, Ethan used timing and clever positioning to maintain balance and efficiency. Next came endurance tests. The warriors were surprised to see that Ethan did not falter, even as they doubled their pace. He adapted quickly to the physical strain, showing resilience that many had assumed humans lacked. Lyria watched from the balcony, curiosity growing. This human was not just surviving, he was learning, improving, and applying strategies in real time. Finally, the combat exercise began. Zypheran warriors charged at him with energy blades, expecting him to fall quickly. Yet Ethan dodged, blocked, and countered with moves that seemed improvised but precise. Each time he responded, it became clearer that his strength was not just physical. It was his mind, his awareness, his anticipation, his ability to read opponents and exploit openings. The arena fell silent. Even the harshest critics had to acknowledge the human's skill. Lyria's eyes narrowed, not in judgment but in astonishment. Perhaps humans were capable of far more than she had ever imagined. After the exercises, Lyria approached Ethan in the arena. The light of the crystal towers cast soft shadows across the floor, highlighting the sheen of sweat on his brow. "You move well," she said, her tone neutral but carrying a hint of admiration. Ethan bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Your warriors are formidable. I am only trying to keep pace." "Your pace is unusual," Lyria remarked, studying him carefully. "Most humans would tire quickly, yet you do not falter. Why?" Ethan considered his words. "Perhaps it is not about strength alone. It is about focus, observation, and the will to adapt. Humans have survived against odds that seemed impossible. We learn quickly, and we use every advantage we can find." Lyria's gaze softened slightly. There was truth in his words and a quiet warning. Underestimating him could be dangerous. She realized that this human, small and seemingly fragile, had a mind and spirit as sharp as any warrior in her court. The next challenge arrived sooner than expected. Reports indicated that a Varnak scout ship had reappeared near Zyphora's perimeter, moving faster than intelligence expected. Lyria immediately convened the Defense Council. The palace filled with the hum of energy, the clatter of armor, and the quiet murmur of anxious advisors. "Prepare the defenses," Lyria commanded. "All units report to your stations. The scouts must not breach our perimeter." Ethan moved alongside the Zephyran commanders, calmly observing the patterns of the incoming ship. His mind raced, analyzing the ship's trajectory, energy emissions, and weak points. He quickly identified openings that the Zephoran scouts had missed. "Deploy the interceptors to the starboard flank," Ethan instructed, pointing to a series of positions. At the same time, position the energy grids to channel their weapons into the ion fields. If timed correctly, it will disable their propulsion without harming the surrounding area. The Zypheran commanders hesitated, uncertain about following a human's directions. Lyria, however, stepped forward. "Do as he says," she ordered. "Trust him. He has proven his worth." The plan unfolded with precision. The scouts moved into the positions Ethan had indicated, and the energy grids activated just as he predicted. The Varnak ship's engines sputtered, and it became stranded in orbit. Zypheran interceptors surrounded it, neutralizing the threat without significant damage. The room erupted in cheers, and even the skeptical commanders looked at Ethan with newfound respect. Later, in the quiet of the palace gardens, Lyria approached him. The air was cool, carrying the scent of exotic flowers that glowed softly under the moonlight. "You have a remarkable mind," she said, her voice quiet, "and unusual instincts. I have underestimated humans for too long." Ethan smiled faintly. I am grateful for your trust, Your Majesty. I only hope to continue helping your world, and to learn from it as well. Lyria studied him in the soft glow. She realized that she felt something unfamiliar. Admiration, yes, but also a quiet curiosity that was difficult to ignore. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and adaptable. In Ethan, those traits were amplified. She had witnessed his courage and cleverness firsthand, and it left her unsettled in the best way. As the stars shimmered above Zephora, Lyria stood silently, contemplating the future. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and challenges she could not yet predict, and now there was a human among her people whose abilities and whose mind might change everything. For the first time in decades, Lyria felt a spark of excitement. The challenge of the unknown was no longer a distant possibility. It was here, embodied in a small human who had stepped onto her planet with nothing but determination and intelligence. And somewhere deep inside, she knew that Zephora, and perhaps even she herself, would never be the same again. The planet Zephora was a world of brilliance and danger. Its cities floated above luminous oceans and its towers reached high into the sky, glimmering with energy crystals that pulsed like living veins. The people of Zephora, tall and lithe, with skin that shimmered in colors unseen on Earth, were known for their intelligence, their skill in combat, and their unshakable pride. At the heart of this dazzling world ruled Queen Lyria, a woman both feared and admired across the galaxy. Her wisdom was unmatched, her beauty legendary, and her power absolute. Lyria had ruled Zephora for over a century, and in that time, she had never faced a challenge she could not overcome. Her advisors often reminded her of the ancient saying, "To underestimate Zephora is to court defeat." She took pride in that saying, but deep inside, Lyria wondered if the universe might still hold surprises she had not yet imagined. It was on one calm, violet-tinted morning that the first human arrived. His name was Ethan, and he had come as part of a small diplomatic mission from Earth. Zyphorans had little experience with humans. Stories told by travelers from distant systems painted humans as fragile, unpredictable creatures. They were clever, yes, but their physical limits were small compared to the strength and resilience of Zyphorans. To Lyria, humans were intriguing puzzles. Small sparks of light in a galaxy of brilliance, fascinating but largely inconsequential. Ethan stepped onto Zephora's gleaming surface with calm determination. He wore simple attire, practical for travel, but his eyes betrayed intelligence and quiet confidence. Unlike many visitors, he did not bow deeply or flinch at the towering forms of the Zephoran guards. Instead, he walked with measured steps, head held high, eyes scanning everything with curiosity rather than fear. Queen Lyria watched from her palace balcony, her long fingers resting on the railing. She had seen countless ambassadors enter her city, but Ethan was different. There was something in his posture, the way he observed without judgment, that made her pause. The guards whispered behind her back, noting the unusual ease with which the human moved among beings far larger and stronger than himself. Why would she allow him inside? One advisor asked, eyes wide. He is human. He is weak compared to us. Lyria's lips curved into a faint smile. Perhaps it is not strength alone that counts, she said. Observe carefully. Inside the palace, Ethan met Lyria in a chamber that glittered with crystals suspended mid-air, casting soft, shifting light across the room. Lyria's presence was commanding. The air seemed to bend around her, thick with authority. Yet she did not intimidate him. He met her gaze evenly, offering a polite bow, then stood upright. Queen Lyria, he said, his voice calm but firm, I bring greetings from Earth. We hope to learn, to share, and to find a way to work together. Lyria studied him. Most humans would have been overwhelmed by the palace, the grandeur, and the queen herself. Ethan was not. He did not stumble over words or lose his composure. That alone was unusual. Earth is far, Lyria replied. Few humans make it beyond their home world. And yet here you are, brave or foolish. Perhaps both. Ethan allowed a faint smile. Perhaps. But we have learned that courage and wisdom often go hand in hand. That evening, the first council meeting began. Lyria's advisors were skeptical. Ethan was seated at a table, far smaller than the Zephorans beside him, but he did not appear intimidated. Instead, he listened carefully, asked precise questions, and offered solutions that were creative and logical. The council discussed the increasing threat from the Varnak coalition, a hostile group of alien species expanding aggressively across nearby systems. Sci-Fi had faced invasions before, but intelligence suggested that the Varnak forces were preparing a major assault on the planet. Lyria had devised strategies, but some were conventional, relying heavily on her warriors' superior strength and energy weapons. Ethan leaned forward. If the enemy expects a traditional approach, they will predict your movements easily. We need something unexpected, something they cannot anticipate, an advisor scoffed. A human suggests strategy for Zyphora. You overestimate your species, Ambassador. Ethan's eyes remained steady. I do not ask to replace your plan. I ask only to add a perspective. Sometimes a smaller, nimble approach works better than raw power. Lyria watched silently as a debate broke out. The aliens argued, some vehemently, some skeptically. Ethan stayed calm, responding with reasoning, examples, and even humor at moments which broke the tension. By the end of the meeting, though not all were convinced, there was a grudging respect for his insight. As the days passed, Ethan explored Zyphora with careful curiosity. He learned the alien language quickly, observed their culture, and even tried basic training in the palace arena. Zyphoran warriors were shocked when he could keep up during drills, reacting swiftly, thinking creatively, and enduring exercises that would leave most humans exhausted. Lyria, observing quietly from the stands, felt a flicker of surprise. One evening, she approached him in the training hall. The arena was empty, save for the soft glow of the crystals above. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow, standing tall despite fatigue. You do not tire easily, Lyria remarked, her voice calm but curious. Ethan smiled faintly. Humans adapt quickly. We find ways to survive and overcome, even when the odds are against us. Lyria's eyes narrowed slightly. And yet most humans do not face enemies like the Varnak. No, he said. But sometimes it is not about facing them at once. It is about learning, observing, and acting when the right moment comes. Something in that statement caught Lyria's attention. Humans were not known for patience. They were seen as impulsive, fragile, yet Ethan spoke of timing, of strategy, of strength that went beyond the physical. She wondered if perhaps her world and her assumptions were too small. A sudden alarm echoed through the palace, followed by frantic shouts from the outer perimeter. A scout ship from the Varnak coalition had breached Zyphora's borders. Security teams mobilized instantly, but confusion spread among the warriors. Lyria's voice rang out above the clamor. Prepare for immediate engagement. All defensive units, report to your positions. Ethan followed, calm and observant. While the aliens relied on brute force, he noticed patterns in the scout ship's movements, subtle indications of weaknesses. Without being asked, he began shouting instructions to nearby units, guiding them to intercept vulnerable points. The commanders hesitated, unsure if a human should lead tactics in the heat of the moment. Lyria watched, her pulse quickening. Slowly, her doubt turned to fascination. Ethan's directions were precise, effective, and most importantly, he remained steady under pressure. The scout ship's attack was neutralized faster than expected, thanks in part to Ethan's quick thinking. After the skirmish, the palace council convened again. Murmurs filled the chamber. Humans had never been credited with tactical brilliance before. Lyria remained silent, considering what she had witnessed. For the first time, she questioned the assumptions she had held about humans for centuries. Ethan met her gaze, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence. I am grateful for the opportunity, he said simply. I only hope to help, nothing more. Lyria nodded slowly, a rare gesture of approval. Perhaps there is more to your species than I have believed, she admitted. Perhaps you are not as fragile as stories say. That night, as the stars above Zyphora shimmered in their purple brilliance, Lyria stood alone on her balcony, watching Ethan walk through the palace gardens. There was something in his stride and the calm assurance with which he moved through her world that unsettled her, not in fear but in curiosity. Humans were small, delicate, and yet here was one who had faced her warriors, her city and her planet's first threat with courage, skill, and clarity. She knew the galaxy was vast, full of dangers she could not predict, and she knew quietly and reluctantly that this human, Ethan, might prove to be one of the greatest surprises she had ever encountered. The seeds of trust, respect, and something deeper were planted in the glow of Zyphora's moons. The alien queen, usually unshakable, felt a flicker of anticipation. The true test had not yet come, but already, The presence of the human ambassador had shifted her world in ways she could not yet measure. And somewhere deep inside, she admitted a truth she had never expected. Perhaps humans, or at least this human, were far stronger than she or anyone had ever imagined.